Hey YouTube subscribers, I'm going to talk about converting my wiring from DC to DCC. I just finished that yesterday, so I'm laying under my 4x8 sheet of plywood here. I'm going to go through my different wiring setups. So what I have here is these three colored wires are all the Atlas snap switches, and I used a lot of old wiring, so I just kind of twisted them together. Sometimes I have two switches, like when I switch from track A to track B, I've got two switches wired together so they both flip at the same time. And then what I did, instead of home run wiring, my shut-off wires for my sidings, I ran a bus line. So these yellow and red wires run kind of in a square. They run down the center 2x4s across, and then back the other 2x4 under here, and then I put a kind of a bus connector, I guess you call them, and didn't really know what I was doing, and I jumpered them together so they kind of make a circle, and then these two wires coming down the middle then go back over to a switch, which I'll describe in a little bit from after I get off my back here under this table. And then for the connections to the track, I have three tracks. Each of them has two of these black wires for the most part. The little green tape was just put on there when I was identifying them. And then I use these connectors into the bus wire. I think those are called suitcase connectors. And there's videos out there of how to use those. They're real simple to put together. So I suitcase wire all of those. The side tracks really only have one connector, and I use a plastic tie to stop the power to one side. So I just have the one wire to hook up to the bus line. The other rail gets its power just from the main line it's connected to. So that's kind of a quick look under the table, and I'm going to get up and show you the switch and what I've done up on top here in a minute. Okay, so I'm off my back now, and I'm going to go over how I change the controls and the switches and things like that. The first thing I did was I removed the power blocks that allowed me to turn off power to the freight lines or the sidings. So each of these sidings here had power off to it. And now, as I mentioned earlier, those are hardwired into the bus line. So I took off those, and I just basically committed to a DCC world where I can still run my old DC trains, but I can't really stop them on the sidings and then run a second train. But that's all right, you know. It was just easier for me that way. So here I have my old DC controller, and it's wired into this switch. This is a double pull, double throw, and when it's on, it's on. It's not one of those momentary switches. I bought some of those, and then those didn't work at all. So if you ever try to do this, make sure you don't get a momentary, that it's fully on. So in the middle of that, the yellow and the red off the bus line go in the middle set of connectors, and on the top set of connectors I have the wires from the DC connector, And in the bottom set, I have the wires from the DCC power pack. So I haven't screwed that down yet, but so anyway, up is going to be DC power and down is going to be DCC. The switches still run off the DC controller, so it has to be on to run the switches, but once the toggle switch is set in the down position, that sends the power to the track from the DCC controller. I've got an MCR Prodigy Advanced, and the thing about this that I like a lot is I got the little Wi-Fi device. I haven't connected this under the table yet, and I haven't made a spot for my power connector. I'll get that off of here. But the thing I like about this is I'm not using the handheld controller. I'm just using my iPad or my iPhone to run the trains. And I just find that, you know, if you're running two trains, it's a lot easier with a Y throttle to do that than it is with the handheld device, because you don't have to switch the locomotives. The Y throttle, you can have up to 4 engines on one screen on an iPad, and I'll do a video on that in just a little while. I have to get a stand for my phone where I can do that without trying to run the iPad and holding the phone at the same time. So anyway, I have converted to DCC. I have some cleanup work to do. I have this locomotive that used to be DC. I had a guy at the Dibbles Hobby Shop, Mike at the Dibbles Hobby Shop here in San Antonio, install the decoder and stuff, the sound card. This one over here, the little Wisconsin Southern, I got that off eBay, pretty good price. I have, I think, 2 more. I have one more old GP, I think it's a 9 that I got off eBay that has sound, and then I have 2 other locomotives that don't have sound but have been converted to DCC. So I got plenty of locomotives to run on this thing. In fact, you know, I probably can't keep track of more than 2 at a time, but it will allow other people to kind of play with this, and those other people are my grandchildren, even though my 6-year-old grandson is probably just dangerous with the DCC technology. Anyway, that's just an update on where I'm at with my DCC work. I haven't started expanding the 4x8 yet. I'm really kind of trying to decide if I want to do that or I don't. It's going to take up a big part of my garage if I do that. So anyway, we'll probably talk about that at some point in the future. Anyway, so in summary, running DCC and DC on the train, same train tracks, just requires, you know, putting a switch in here, a toggle switch, and just being careful that you don't have your DC locomotives and your power pack mismatched. So I mean by that, I mean you don't have your DCC locomotives running off your DC power pack. That's not good for them, or vice versa, I'm assuming. So anyway, thanks for watching.